Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Terri Cole. Terri Cole is a New York-based licensed psychotherapist, relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, the essential guide to talk true, be seen, and finally live free. She is also the founder of Real Love Revolution, Boundary Bootcamp, and the the co-founder of Crushing Codependency. Her empowerment courses serve people in over 90 countries. Prior to her current incarnation as a love and boundaries expert, Terri was a bi-coastal talent agent negotiating endorsement contracts for supermodels and celebrities. Her eventual disenchantment with the world of entertainment led her to change careers in her 30s to become a psychotherapist and empowerment expert. She has since made it her mission to teach as many women as possible to establish and maintain effective boundaries with ease and create and sustain healthy, vibrant relationships. For the past 2 decades, Terri has worked with some of the world's most well-known personalities, from international pop stars, athletes, Broadway performers, and TV personalities to thought leaders and Fortune 500 CEOs. She empowers over 450,000 people weekly through her published articles and blog posts, illuminating videos, therapeutic meditations, online courses, and her popular podcast, The Terri Cole Show. Terri's approach combines the best of practical psychology and Eastern mindfulness practices. She has a gift for making complex psychological concepts accessible and then actionable so that clients and students achieve sustainable change, true transformation. She has been featured as an expert therapist and master life coach on A&E's Monster-in-Laws, TEDx, The Lisa Oz Show, Real Housewives, and a weekly radio show on Hay House Radio, plus a regular contribution to the Huffington Post, Positively Positive, The Daily Love, Well and Good, and has been featured in Italian Elle, Forbes, Origin, Vogue, Self, and was honored to grace the cover of Inspired Coach magazine. Learn more about her work at terricole.com. Today's episode was so good. If you have any trouble setting boundaries, sticking to boundaries, having difficult conversations, people pleasing, you're an empath, or you feel all the feelings, you're a fixer, a rescuer, a codependent, this episode is for you. And today we talked about dysfunctional boundaries, how to set personal boundaries, permissible ways for people to speak and act towards you, what boundary violations are and how to recognize them, how we identify codependency, if we're an empath, how to stop and control. I don't know if I want to say control, but to stop the urge to fix, rescue others, and just the whole people pleasing thing. Terri went over the boundary blueprint, and she is such a professional. This was so good. And you guys have listened to my episodes very long. You've heard me talk about the Boundary Boss book for a long time. And I was so excited to have Terri on today. She also helps us recognize that momentary discomfort is well worth the long-term benefits of living, without resentment, and how to cure your overachieving. Like if you're always trying to seek approval, external validation. She had so much gold today. I can't wait for you guys to tune into this episode. It's one of my favorites. Just stopping the compulsive helper mode where we're rescuing everybody we come across, and we feel like we're a self-service station for others. And can any of you moms relate today? Okay. I connect to my inner wisdom to decide what is right and true for me. That is a quote from Terri Cole. And without further ado, we are going to dive into this episode and all become boundary bosses. I am so excited to welcome Terri Cole to the Sisterhood of Sweat today. Welcome.
Why, thanks, Linda. I'm so psyched to be here.
You're the bomb. I'll tell you what, I absolutely love your book, Boundary Boss. And I know how important this topic is today to people, especially anybody that maybe grew up with some dysfunction in their household, to learn how to set proper boundaries. And first, though, I kind of want to dive into your story. How did you become the boundary boss?
Well, you can imagine my story is I became a boundary master because I was a boundary disaster. You know, what do they say? That you teach what you most need to learn. And so for sure, in my young life, my boundaries were not good. They were too porous, as we say, which is too malleable. I was a people pleaser. I was a codependent. I was an overfunctioner. I was an overgiver. I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive person. So put all that together, and what do you have is a boundary disaster. And I didn't know until I had a lot of therapy that the conflict I was having in my relationships and like my exhaustion, how I was feeling, all of that stuff was related to not having healthy boundaries and not feeling like I could say no to things, to friends, to my family. Like I just was so overextended all the time. Once I got to that point in my life of in therapy, and then I became a therapist because that wasn't my first career. My first career, I was a talent agent, negotiating contracts for supermodels and celebrities. So that was not a hotbed of mental health, as you can imagine. And it was also such blurred boundaries in the entertainment business, as we all know. But that was something that even more made me know I needed to continue on this path. And it was really when my therapist said, you know, you just don't know, you just don't have a clue about boundaries and what they are, and that you have a right to them. And, you know, you literally put everyone else's needs above your own, and you think that's you being a good person, but really it's going to leave you angry. And of course, it does leave you angry. So that was the trajectory, is where, you know, I decided to leave entertainment because I just, even though I kept thinking this next job, that more famous people, more money, that was going to be the thing that was going to make me feel the way that I wanted to feel. I wish I had had a Danielle Laporte's desire map, one of my girlfriends, before then, because I would have asked myself, is this path you're on going to give you more of your core desired feelings? And the answer would have been no, but I didn't know that then. And once I got to kind of the top of the heap and I was running a bicoastal agent, you know, New York office of a bicoastal talent agency, I was like, wow, okay, well, this really isn't it. Like, this is what I was really interested in. And what I couldn't stop myself from doing was helping my clients therapeutically, getting everyone into eating disorder clinics and drug treatment rehabs. And that's what I was passionate about. It wasn't the Pantene deal or the movie deal.
Right.
It was, in a real way, helping the quality of someone's life. And I was like, God, there's got to be something better I could do with my one and only life than what I'm doing. And my assistant, who became my best friend because my boundaries were terrible, she was like, hey, want to go to grad school and become a therapist? And I was like, yeah, let's. And we did. And that was how I ended up. And that was 25 years ago.
Wow. So what would be an example of somebody that has unhealthy boundaries for everyone listening? Just like run down some tips on how to recognize when you're not setting healthy boundaries.
All right, well, let's start with, what does it mean to be a boundary boss? right? What does it mean to have good boundaries? Because I feel like that will start with the definition. This is you knowing your preferences, your desires, your limits, and your deal breakers, like your non-negotiables, and having the ability to communicate them whenever you want to, whenever you so choose. So, because there's a difference between knowing those things and being able to communicate or assert yourself when it comes to those things. Now, let's think about it. Preferences, right? Those are not deal breakers. Not all boundaries are made the same, but sharing your preferences on a regular basis is just as important as knowing and establishing and enforcing your deal breakers. And it's not about what other people think about those things. When we were taught, most of us, Linda, and this is the truth, were raised and praised for being self-abandoning codependents.
Oh my gosh.
That's it.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? Who wasn't taught to be a good girl, do well in school, turn that frown around? I mean, I could keep going. I won't. It was never about how you actually felt. It was all about don't be a troublemaker. Be nice. Growing up, I was raised to believe that being nice was like the holy grail of my accomplishments. It was like the highest virtue. And that is just such a load of crap. Because if being nice means saying yes when you want to say no, let's think about it. Is that actually being nice? No, it's just being dishonest. Eventually, the truth will come out, because here's the thing. We can only deny or shove down the truth about how we feel about things for so long. It's going to come out. It's going to come out. We either talk it out or we act it out. That's it. As a therapist, I can tell you, I believe that those are our two choices in life. And if we can't talk it out because we don't know how to talk true, as I would say, we're going to act it out through passive aggressive behavior, slamming a door instead of saying, hey, I don't like that tone of voice you're using. I'm going to ask you to back it up. Start that sentence again, please. I don't know why you're so aggressive, but it's really making me uncomfortable. Right? That
Oh my
sounds
gosh, yes.
easy, right?
Right.
And here's the thing. It is simple, but I won't say it's easy, but you can learn how to do it. One next right action at a time. So let's talk about disordered boundaries. Saying yes when you want to say no. Lending money to someone who you know isn't going to pay you back, right? We have different categories of boundaries. Being sexual with someone that you really don't want to, but they took you out to dinner and you feel kind of obligated.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's having weak boundaries, because you
Right.
don't owe anyone your body because they bought you a friggin' martini. Do you know what I mean? But we feel that way sometimes. So your physical body is like, this is the biggest physical boundary we have is our bodies, right? So someone saying something, objectifying you, making a comment about what you have on, and you being like, okay, Bob from accounting, great, instead of being like, hey, Bob, I know you think it's a compliment, and I really do like you. So I'm going to make a simple request that you stop commenting about my clothing or my body, because it really makes me uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And as you're going through this, I mean, when I read and also listened to your book, because I have both the book and the Audible.
I love it.
I mean, the bells were going off. I had to actually stop for a little bit because it was just so painful. I mean, just to be looking at, why you do what you do. And I know it has to be ringing bells for people today. And this dysfunction, like I grew up in dysfunction. And I think because of my boundaries were so violated, I didn't recognize proper and healthy boundaries. And I really did not start setting boundaries until a really late age, let me just say. Like probably around 55, 56, and I'm 59 now.
Right on,
and
sister.
I still struggle. I was such a people pleaser, an empath. Just so
Same,
like,
same, same.
oh my gosh. So I am just loving what you're saying, and I'll let you go back and finish, but oh my gosh, this is just so good today.
Part of why I want to spontaneously, when I can, just give um, scripts right in the moment is because when you have scripts, and in the book itself, which people can get at boundarybossbook.com with a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm still giving away all the things you're supposed to stop giving away. I don't even care. I'm still giving them all away because I want
I
you to have
love
all
that.
of it.
That's so great.
But in the book, there's a whole entire chapter that's literally, you know this because you read it, but just scripts for every situation. Like, let's say you left a religious cult and then you bumped into those people in the supermarket and they say, we're praying for you. And you know what that means, right? You know,
Yes.
they mean you now are going to hell, basically. I
Yes.
literally have a script
Oh, I
for you
love
to
that.
say, oh my God, thank you so much. Because who couldn't use more prayers? Thank you. Or I'm praying for you too.
That's so good.
Right? We're
Oh,
just gonna, yeah.
so,
Hold on.
so good. So, what would be typical boundary violations, kind of going down the list? Because I think for people like me, it's hard for us to recognize when someone's violating our boundaries. I have
Mhm.
started recognizing how it makes me feel, but then we're still like afraid to address it. And I think
Yeah.
having these tips could help us so much today.
Well, here's the thing. So let's look at what are boundary violations? What do they look like? So someone touching you, your physical body, commenting, Bob from accounting, we already gave that example, but also somebody standing too close to you when they're talking to you, right? There's no right or wrong. If you are uncomfortable, then that mother effer needs to back up. Like, that's it. It's not about you being, well, why are you like that? Or you're so extra, or you're what? No. So usually if someone is encroaching on our personal space, we will naturally just step back. And then if they step forward again, you can say, oh, hey, Bob, can you step back? You're a little too close for my comfort. Okay, so what were you saying? Like, step the fuck back. Like, it's okay. And the more we do this and the more we know we have a right to our boundaries. And when we're done with this, let's go over the Boundary Boss Bill of Rights, because I feel like that's really helpful for people to go, wait, I have a right to do that. Who knew? Moving into emotional boundaries, right? When you have disordered emotional boundaries, you take on the feeling states of other people. You feel overly responsible. This is where codependency comes in,
Oh my
where
goodness.
we're overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the decisions of the people that we care about, to the point that it is negatively impacting our own inner peace, our financial or spiritual well-being, right? Because listen, as lovers, listen, of course we're invested. We love the people we love. We want them to be happy. So I'm not saying we should be cold-hearted, but if that person's problem, the moment they tell you it, becomes your problem. And the way that you can tell is, I want you to check your urgency.
Yeah.
Check your urgency. Are you like, oh my God, I need to do this right now? You jump on Google, you're calling people. That is telling you that that's a disordered emotional boundary, or someone about emotional boundary violation is someone trying to make you feel bad about the way you feel, right? Someone, you say no, and someone being like, just think about it overnight. You're like, I don't need to think about it because I already fucking said no. So no is no. We're done. This conversation is over. And a script for that is, you've asked, I've answered. So let's move on. Someone trying to wear down your no is really manipulative. There's a whole chapter in the book about boundary destroyers, which these are people they really don't fall into the regular category. It's like narcissistic personality disorder, people who are
Yeah.
highly, highly manipulative, because I feel like most of us are pretty normal, and we think that other people are like us, and they're not a lot of the time. So it's really important that we're aware that if someone is gaslighting you, you need to know what that is. If someone is love bombing you, you need to know what that is. If something doesn't feel right to you, right? Too much too soon in a new relationship, trust your gut, pump the brakes. But then you're like, well, I don't want them to be offended. I'm worried about how they feel. That is a disordered emotional boundary.
Oh my gosh, I know. And you're saying this, and I know these things go off in my brain. Like
Right?
I was, I don't know if you know who Lewis Howes is from the School of
Mhm.
Greatness, but his mom, Diana, told me that I suffer from good girl syndrome. And I do. And I'm like, I just really need to work on all of this today. And I'm sure a lot of people are relating to what you're saying as you're going through this, being the fixer, the rescuer,
Mhm.
being afraid to offend. But I did learn something from your book. I don't want to carry all this with me. They're not carrying it with them. And
Right.
if I address it up front, I have momentary discomfort instead of a lifetime of it. And so I am learning from you.
Right on. And it's worth it. Here's the thing about being uncomfortable. It is momentary and you're not that fragile, right? Like it feels yucky for like a minute, but it feels so good when you're done. And the more you are able to assert your preferences, your desires, your limits, and your deal breakers, the easier it gets. And in the beginning, you feel guilty. And in the beginning, you want to take it back, right? I created the 48-hour rule because so many of my clients would be like, I mean, I drew the boundary, but I really want to call them and say, forget it. It's okay. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Right. And
Mhm.
I'm like, no, 48 hours. And by the end of that 48 hours, you're not going to want to take it back. You're not. This is your life. There's nothing wrong with how you feel or what you want. And people, a lot of my
Oh,
clients
that
would
is
say,
so beautiful.
oh, thank you. But it's true, right? Like you
Mhm.
have a right. My
Yeah.
clients would feel like, I don't know if what I want is reasonable or how I feel. And the way that I think about that and why I wrote the Boundary Boss Bill of Rights and I have it right in the front of the book is because I want us to all be starting this journey um, with the same understanding of what we have a right to do in life. So can we go over those?
Yes, totally.
Let's. Starting with, you have a right to say no or yes to others without feeling guilty. And so many of us don't feel that way. We sometimes we feel guilty for saying yes to ourselves, saying yes to what we really want.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yes, we do. All right, number two, you have a right to make mistakes, to course correct, or to change your mind. And this is one that was really personally very painful for me because everything I did was like a friggin' life sentence, right? Because I would never let myself change my mind. I was like, my word is my bond, but why not let yourself grow and change? I would stay in friendships way too long, toxic relationships way too long, because I felt like I had to. And that was what, I don't know, it was what I learned in a family of three older sisters, and loyalty was a major thing. But this freedom that comes with giving yourself permission to change your friggin' mind and giving yourself permission to grow, right? We're evolving, we're changing. Yeah. I was willing to do your laundry last year. I'm not anymore. See, because that changed. So now you can learn how to use the washing machine or whatever, you know? All right. Number three, you have the right to negotiate for your preferences, your desires, and your needs. And when I say negotiate, Lynn, I don't mean just to let the other person know what they are. I mean to really go for it. If you say, your partner says, I really want pizza tonight. And you go, I really don't. I really want something healthier. I really want whatever. And they go, no, 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 let's going for it. Being like, no, I'm not eating pizza tonight. Like going for it. So much of the time when we are trained and indoctrinated to avoid conflict, we will just abandon ourselves in a heartbeat. If the partner says, but I really want pizza, you're like, okay, whatever, I don't even care. It's not a big deal. But again, always in service unconsciously of avoiding conflict, right? Like we just don't want there to be a problem. But if we are endlessly sucking it up in the big and the small things in life, there is a problem because we end up martyred, bitter, angry, feeling used, feeling abused, because we didn't say, hey, that's cool. You get pizza, you'll have leftovers. I'm getting what I want. Like it's our job to get our own needs met. But so many of us were taught that, negotiating for our needs is like gauche, but it's, or like something about it is unsavory, but it isn't. This is life, Okay, next. You have the right to express and honor all of your feelings if you so choose. So you're not required. And I'm very selective with who I let into, who's in my VIP section. I don't need.
Yeah.
I'm not, you don't, not everyone gets that backstage pass to like what happened in my life, to who I actually am. Maybe if you're trustworthy and I've got lots of evidence that you are, and we slowly but surely build a friendship, then perhaps. But it's like you're valuable, you can tell people how you feel and you don't have to if you don't want to. So it's knowing that you really are the boss of you, and you don't owe anybody that, where some relationships are all like, do you have to tell me every single solitary thing,
Right.
No, I don't think
Or
so.
with women, a lot of times, like if you did grow up in church, there's this whole like subservient,
Yep.
submissive, this, and I'm describing somewhat my childhood
Yeah.
watching my mom, and
Mhm.
but she's a great, I love my mom, but that
Of
was
course.
her era. And
Yep.
so I remember that as my model. And then times in life, I find myself being like that. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that. And
Mhm.
so it's this little bit of a back and forth.
Yeah, it is. And also we love our parents, even parents, if you did have parents who are very incapable of parenting, let's just say, I'm not saying you did because you're saying your mom was great, but it doesn't matter because we love them and they imprint on us regardless. This is where our, the downloaded boundary blueprint that all of us have in our unconscious mind. So much of it comes from our early experiences and what we saw and what we witnessed, right? Your mother didn't have to say to you, this is what you should do, Linda. She didn't have to say anything. As kids, we just see it and we go, oh, that's what adult love looks like. Okay. This is what loyalty is. Okay. This is the way the world works. Okay. That's what we learn. So much of this process in the courses that I teach, in the book, is unlearning these things without necessarily, none of this is about making our parents wrong. Generally, I go, it's not about them. You know what I mean? It's like we feel like we want to protect them, but from what? It's our life experience. I don't need to tell my mother what I think she did wrong if I don't want to, right?
Right.
It's
exactly.
right. You just got to live your life the way that you need to live it. Okay. You have a right to voice your opinion, even if others disagree. That one's obvious. You have a right to be treated with respect, consideration, and care. Now, this comes back to, do you treat yourself with respect, consideration, and care? And a lot of the times we don't, because we're prioritizing other people and trying to avoid conflict. And we want to be seen as the good mom or the good partner or whatever the thing is, the good worker.
Yep.
You have a right to determine who has the privilege of being in your life. And that's the whole thing that I write about and talk about and teach about the VIP section of your life, where so much of the time we're so busy trying to not be rejected by other people, wanting other people to like us, that I sometimes with my clients, they're like, I think this person is getting uninterested. I was like, listen, we haven't even established if you like this person. Like, are they a quality human? Why does everyone have the power to make us be afraid of being rejected, where you're like, no, we're going to do some quality control. And it is a privilege to be in your life. And not everybody, not even if they're family, has the right. Like nobody automatically gets to be in your VIP section. My feeling is it's people where it's mutual, where they're emotionally safe, right? It's not just anybody. And it's funny, people will be like, wait, but I feel so bad. How can I kick my family out of my VIP section? I'm like, you guys, this is a concept I made up. It's not even really a place. It's you knowing you have a right to protect yourself from anyone who will do you harm. That's what I'm saying. That's what it is. So if you know that you have a sister who's jealous of you and says mean and cutting and horrible things to you, then don't hand her the knife, right?
I love that. That is great. That is gold.
Yeah, let's just keep your knives over here and keep that person at arm's length, no matter who they are, is my 2 cents. All right, we got 3 more. You have a right to communicate your boundaries, your limits, and your deal breakers. And your deal breakers are your non-negotiables, and again, other people don't have to understand these per se. People will be like, well, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't feel that way. Well, who asked you? I already feel that way. So start there. And B, I'm telling you how I feel, not asking for your opinion or your judgment on my feelings. This is like not up for debate.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
literally giving you information. You shouldn't feel that way. Oh, I do already feel that way.
Yeah.
So
minimizing your feelings, or just making you feel like you shouldn't be feeling what you're feeling.
And how about, if you want to be in my life, you need to actually care about the way that I feel.
Ooh, that's really good.
Or you are out. That is a requirement. For me, that's a non-negotiable. Anyone in my life needs to care and treat me with respect. And if I have something to say to them, they listen, as I do to them. Right. But I got nobody trying to talk me out of my feelings in my life at this point. All right. 2 more. You have the right to prioritize your self-care without feeling selfish. Which I think that this is a struggle for the women in my community, probably the women in your community, especially, like feeling bad because there's always someone else who needs something, like those of us who are mothers taking care of aging parents. It's just, there's always someone, right, who needs something. But self-care, when we don't do it, we end up super depleted and angry. Like we've really become bitter. Listen, we hear about all these like moms who are like bitter martyrs, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't think that was their plan, right?
No, of course not. Yeah.
Right. They didn't start out thinking that.
No.
They just abandoned themselves so many times that they then blame it on other people. They feel victimized by their inability to prioritize themselves. They want people to read their minds. They're like, and it's so unhealthy and dysfunctional. But I always think about that when people are like, but I don't want to make a big deal. I'm like, listen, think about those martyred old women who are like, after everything I've done for you, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're bitter and resentful, and it's
feel
not
like
good.
you owe them.
Not good for them.
You owe them for all the sacrifices that they willingly did that you never friggin' asked them to do.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to end up like that. We don't. Take care of yourself so you don't.
I love that. Love that.
And that's it. The last one is you have the right to talk true, be seen, and live free, which is the subtitle of the book.
That's perfect. So good today. I'm just like, okay, we all need that list like on our phones right in front of us. But if you get the book, you'll have it right there. And this book hit so many bells for me. And one of the things that I really found interesting that I've never really heard before was the why behind people pleasing and being afraid of conflict, and why you want to rescue and why you want to fix. And I'd love for you to go over that, because I think that's so helpful when you understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, everyone's motivations, like specific, will be their own. But when you're really talking about rescuing, fixing, doing, overgiving, right? We're talking about high functioning, as I call it, codependency. And this is an overt or a covert bid for control. We don't want our best friend making the mistake of marrying the jerk. We don't want our kid to lose their job. So we cover for them when they call in sick, even though they're home wasted or whatever, right? It's like the chaos in someone else's life or the bad decision that they're making makes us so uncomfortable that we are trying to fix and control it. We're always giving people advice when they don't ask for it. Then we're pissed that they don't take it, even though they didn't ask for it, that we freely gave our advice.
Yes.
I used to think when I was overfunctioning in my relationship with my sisters and with whomever, I used to think that I was just Mother Teresa. I was just a lover like that, right? I was just kind like that. And it was really through therapy that I realized that that person, and in my case, it was one of my sisters who was in a terrible situation, living in an abusive relationship, drugs, living in the woods with no running water, like a real not great thing. She would call me and tell me what a jerk this guy was and what he did again and again and again. And I was talking to my therapist and I was crying and I was like, what am I going to do? I've sent her money. I don't know what to do. Like, I got to get her out of there. And she's like, Terri, why are you saying, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I have to do something, don't I? And she was like, what makes you think you know what she needs to learn in this life or how she needs to learn it? And I was like, oh, listen, I think we could agree she doesn't have to learn it in an abusive relationship with this idiot. She's like, honestly, I can't agree because I have no idea what she needs to learn. But do you know what's really happening? And clearly I did not. I was like, no, would you clue me in? And she said, you worked really hard to create a pretty harmonious life. And your sister's dumpster fire of a life is really messing with your inner peace. You want to fix it so that you can go back to your manageable life, but it's not yours to fix. So now this is where boundaries come in, right? You don't need to let her dump on you every day about this abusive relationship. Step back. And I did, and told her, hey, I love you, but I can't. It's too painful. So if you ever really want to change, get sober, get away from this person, then I'm still your person. And about 9 months later, she called me and was like, okay, I'm ready. I was like, great, I'm getting in my car. And she got sober and clean and went back to school. And, all of those things happened. But when my therapist made me see that I was centering myself in my sister's situation, it was like I was making my sister's drama kind of about me in a way. And when we try to fix things, think about it, that's really what we're doing. Like, absolutely. I have the answer, right? I have the answer. I was like, wow, that is so painful. I guess I'm not Mother Teresa. I did think it was being loving, and I didn't think I had a choice. And she was like, oh yeah, you definitely have a choice. And so I share that because it was a very painful realization for me in my life, but maybe somebody listening will realize they don't have to be in this codependent, enabling place with someone, and that there's a more loving thing to do. And the truth is, you don't know what someone else should be doing in their life. Maybe these are mistakes that they need to make, even if you think they're making mistakes, but it's their mistakes to make,
Oh, so good. So how do we control this when you just, like, I feel the feelings in the room. And I can look back and know a lot of now after listening to your book, why I'm attuned to that. It stems from early childhood because my mom had manic depression. And so when, everybody's happy, I'm protected, I'm okay, I'm safe. So I became very attuned to people and their feelings. And I think a fixer, I couldn't stand to see anybody unhappy. I can't stand, like, I want to fix it. How do we stop that? Like, how do we stop that?
Well, part of it is realizing that it's not on your side of the street and that you are not responsible for how someone else feels. Take care of the little girl in you. When you start to feel anxious because someone is upset, it's not about focusing on them. It's about focusing on you and being able to say, hey, we're safe. I'm having a repeating reality, as I call it, but that person isn't mom and I'm not 6. And it's okay. You know what? I can leave right now and go get a cup of tea. I can walk around the block. That person is responsible for how they feel and for what energy they're bringing into the room and what energy they're leaving the room with. And you're responsible for you, because that's all you can be responsible for. So I think that how we stop is the first step, is getting really clear about what is our responsibility. And the way that I say it is what's on my side of the street and what's on your side of the street. You are not responsible for cleaning the whole neighborhood. You just got to keep your side of the street clean. And also know that it's okay if you feel a little uncomfortable. If you feel very uncomfortable, you can leave a situation, but you're also super not that fragile. Like, you're not. Soothe the child within you. Do a lot. I love the child within work. I think it's really powerful stuff to do. Have exquisite self-care. And you got to heal the child, because these are original injuries that are still being played out. If it still feels so raw, and if you feel compelled, right? If it's like a compulsion to fix, then you're like, okay, well, that is an original injury that needs my attention.
Well, I think for me, it was because it meant suicide or trying to commit suicide. And I wanted to save my mom from herself, basically, as a child. And so then I think in my mind, somehow I formed that when people aren't happy, they may commit suicide. Somehow that's just like in there. And
but it makes sense.
Yeah.
But Linda, think about it. It actually makes total psychological sense.
Yeah.
That, and also as a kid, and because it's such black and white thinking, you know, that was a belief that got solidified in childhood, because it's such a basic belief that your adult self would be like, okay, well, obviously I know that's not true. But so it tells us that who needs soothing is the inner child. And we all have inner kids, right? And we have different phases of development where we had injuries that continue to be activated in our adult lives. So it's really worth doing that John Bradshaw work. And, you know, in this course that I have coming up in the end of January, I actually do a bunch of child within work. It's called Real Love Revolution. And it's a course, it's a 12-week course, but it's all about how self-love is the only path to true love. And so, of course, I get into attracting healthy love, being in a relationship. So it's really for people of any gender, anybody can be in it, who want to have better and more quality love in their life, starting with their relationship with themselves and then moving out from there. But we cover communication, we cover boundaries, we cover the child within, we cover conflict resolution. So all of these are just the skills we need to live these higher level lives that we really want.
So good. How can people recognize if they are codependent?
Oh, check your resentment, sister. Do a resentment inventory, and that will tell you where a need is not getting met, a boundary is being crossed, or you're over functioning your ass off and do not feel adequately appreciated.
When you're not feeling adequate, because you're overdoing the holiday and making it perfect, and you know. Since it was just a holiday,
people are not throwing you a parade, and you're mad about that, you know.
And let's just speak to a little bit of people out there that they wait for permission, they feel like they need approval, they're overachieving and looking for that external validation. What
Mhm.
would you have them do instead?
Part of it is you have to look in. That sounds really basic, but you do. You have to look to yourself, because external validation, right? This gives people the power over you, because they can give and they can take it away. So get discerning with whose opinion you give a crap about. It isn't like we can't want to be liked by everyone, even people we don't like. And this is what it is when you have the disease to please. It's painful if anybody doesn't like you. Then you're like, why? What? I need people to approve of what I'm doing. I remember I did this thing with Deepak Chopra years ago. And he said, remember, Terri, you don't have to convince anyone of anything ever. And I was like, holy crap. I've been spending my whole life trying to convince everyone of everything that I'm doing, what I'm doing is right. And I want them to approve of me. And that was such permission to be like, I'm the only person living this life. My mother has something on her fridge that says, I promise not to take credit for your accomplishments if you promise not to blame me for your failures.
Oh, that's so good.
It's so true, right? Like, I'm the only one living this life. So those of you who are looking outside of yourself, who are still sort of under the thumb of other people's opinions, I really want you to get like esoteric about it for a second and think about the fact that you come in alone, you go out alone. Only you have to live this life experience. And this is our only time around this time, even if you believe in multiple lives. Like, this is not a dress rehearsal. We're live right now. It's happening. So it's precious. And those of us who've lost people, young or anyone, you realize that like none of this time is guaranteed. So don't waste another second caring what everyone else thinks. And of course, we have important people in our lives. I care what my partner thinks. I care what my mother thinks, but I don't care what either one of them thinks more than I care about what I think. That makes sense?
Yes.
So it's
Totally.
first what I think. And then, yes, the people I love, I want them to understand me, not necessarily approve of me, but understand me, you know?
Yeah, you have to give yourself approval.
You do. And then you won't care if other people do or don't. Really, you'll be like, that's okay. You can think I shouldn't make this move, whether it's a business move, and I'm still making this move, you know? It's okay, because it's my life. And then in the end, we can't blame other people. If we're like, well, I would have done this, but my father made me go to dental school. Well, if you went to dental school and you're a dentist and you hate it, then you can quit and do something else. It doesn't last for life that we're saying it's someone else's fault. You can turn this ship around right now. It is never too late to live a life that you friggin' love. It is never too late.
So for somebody out there that wants to turn this ship around today, give them just an easy way to start, because I know like setting huge boundaries might be a little difficult when you first start.
Nope.
No.
I think you should just stop the insta yes. Why don't we just stop instantly saying yes to other people? And you can do that very easily by just being aware. Take the next 7 days. And when someone says something, you're going to say, thank you so much for thinking of me. I have to check with my partner and get back with you. My roommate, I have to look at my schedule. But I appreciate you thinking of me. Thanks. No instant answers. Start training people. We don't have to give people an instant yes, right? And you can come back and first of all, the reason why we want to not give an instant yes, especially to things that down deep we know we do not want to do, is that it makes it so much easier to come back and say no. If you haven't already,
because you got to think
yes.
about it a little bit.
Yes. And it's okay to say. I used to tell my clients to say to people, hey, I've instituted a 24-hour decision-making policy. So I'll get back to you tomorrow on this. a little tongue in cheek, a little cute, but true. I want time to think about it. I don't know if I want to do it. And that's okay. It's not about them. People invite me to go to like an outside concert. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to go. Too loud, bugs, too much sun. I don't want to go. It's not them. And my friends know not to take that personally. It's okay to say, hey, you know what? Outside music, totally not my thing, but have so much fun. And let's try to do lunch next week. Don't we have a right to our friggin' preferences? We do. So that I think is an easy way to go. But I'm also giving your listeners something which, hold on, I'm going to tell you where you can get it. And it's going to be about codependency, because I feel like this is something that people struggle with so much. And then there'll be information there for the course, which people can get the info at terricole.com/RLR, which is Real Love Revolution, starting on January 26th. But I want to give you, hold on 1 second. All right, because I made a special thing. All right, it's boundaryboss.me/sisterhood. So that is where
perfect.
they can find their free gift, sisterhood, their free gift, and all the other info that they want and need.
That is so great. And I just thank you so much for everything you contributed to people, and just being all about teaching us to set better boundaries, because I know that is life-changing. Thank you so much today. And
thank you for having me.
Enjoyed you so much. And she has to run, you guys. I promised her 2:55 and it's 2:56. So here we go. So thank you so much.
Yes. And thanks, Lynn. You guys can find me at terricole.com. Check me out on Instagram. I'm just at Terri Cole.
Thank you. And bye, everybody.